It's Saturday night at Mohawk, and I'm Elisa, and this is Randy, and we are ready for a power-packed 11-race program here tonight. This is a great card for a Saturday night.
It's an amazingly good card, and the big gravy, the icing on the cake is going to be, you're going to have to stick around for that 11th race. Got a mandatory payout in the jackpot high five, and the carryover well over $200,000.
We also have a preferred pace tonight that'll go as race number 9, and I know it's a small field, but oh my goodness, I'm so excited to see what happens. Brew Hanover facing Tarasi. I liked Tarasi last week. He got up just in time, but Brew Hanover has been a force to be reckoned with.
He is. Brew Hanover's going to be picking up a different driver, though, tonight.
I saw
Dougie's
that.
going to stick with Tarasi, and now Travis Cullen's going to be driving Brew Hanover. Travis having a fantastic year. That's the beauty of sometimes how things change, Lisa? Because, you know, a few years ago, Travis seemed like he just more or less just drove his barn. Now he's picking up catch drives left and right. You know, it's very good to see because he's doing a great job.
Well, last Saturday night, the Cullens couldn't be beat.
Yeah.
I mean, they had maybe 3 or 4 winners on the program, and last night was a great night for Doug McNair. He had 4 winners all in a row, correct?
Yeah.
So he must be a happy guy after
I
that.
would have to say he would be. You know, then again, he did get beat in the last, and he was one of the favorites in there. So with being with Dougie, he's probably biting his stifle a little bit.
You know what would make him happy? A recipe for a huckleberry pie, but we can't give that out tonight because we are huckleberry free.
Oh, no talking of huckleberries tonight?
No, and I know you were going to give out your recipe for huckleberry tarts.
Man, absolutely,
yeah,
for
that's
sure.
a shame.
I actually I really worked on my huckleberry hound impression too. I was going to impress you with it.
You know somebody who really impressed all of us last night? Dave Maneri. 1,000 career victories for Dave. This year has been fantastic for him, so much so that they've made another comic book character. This time,
there we go.
It's Dave, look at that. And he even has the rosy cheeks.
There you go. Absolutely. Yeah, I was saying to Jeff there last night, you know, I mean, I've worked for a few people. I will put his work ethic up against anybody.
Yep.
This guy can go. He shows up early in the barn. He goes all day. You know, goes all afternoon and then comes here and races, warms up his own horses, you know, just amazing.
You know, I'm not too sure about this outfit. Like, you know, are those pants, is that a Speedo? I can't quite figure it all out. But the boots, you know, it comes with a utility belt and sturdy boots as well.
The super gloves and the sonic eye shields. Oh, I love it there.
Isn't that
Absolutely,
fun?
it is. Yeah.
People are having a lot of fun with these AI things that you can do now, whether it's making dolls up or making comic book characters, but we have a couple of comic book characters, James McDonald now and Dave Maneri. So congratulations, Dave, on 1,000 career victories.
I have to admit there, with a chin like this, I'm kind of glad the comic books weren't
yours
around
is coming,
years
buddy.
ago. You know what I mean?
Yours is
Not a good
coming.
thing with a chin like this.
Alrighty, so a busy night, as I mentioned, that mandatory payout tonight for the jackpot high five, where the carryover is huge. It's well over $200,000. So we're really excited about that.
And it's a toughie.
Yeah, exactly. The problem I have with it is this is a tough one to get.
It is.
I was watching you and Jeff last night, and you know, the more I looked at it, the harder I thought it was. And I just don't know. I think you're going to have to go fairly deep to get it tonight. I went with a long shot up on top.
Me
just
too.
for fun.
Yeah, me too. You know, and the biggest reason was I just couldn't support the horses that I think are going to be the favorites on top. I had to go looking for somebody that I think could maybe, you know, trick their way into the win.
Yep.
And that's the route I'm going to go as well.
Well, more on that later on as we get to race number 11.
Let's go back to the huckleberries. Oh, no, right,
no,
right.
No, no, no.
Zero. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Race number 1 on this evening's program. Oh, just quickly before we get to race number 1, I just want to remind. It's okay. We can do it with the graphic up. It's cool. Race number 11, we're all going to be watching at Oaklawn. Now I know they're coming up to the 10th race, but if you're a fan of horse racing in general, I don't care if you're a thoroughbred fan, standardbred fan, quarter horse racing fan, Arabian racing fan. Whatever it is, you gotta love a mare by the name of Torpedo Anna, and she is competing in race number 11 at Oaklawn today. That's the Apple Blossom, Randy. It's a grade 1, and guess what it's worth?
What?
$1.25 million.
Whoa.
She has made $4 million in her career. Yep, and they call her the Grizzly.
Oh, no way.
Yep. Yeah, she is pretty phenomenal. So we'll be watching
Looking
that
forward
too.
to this.
Yes, so race number 1 on tonight's program, where we kick off the guaranteed pick 5 for you on this evening's program, features one of my favorite horses, and that's Emmett's Buddy. Oh man, Emmett had well, I think it's safe to say, not the trip they wanted. Last start out, which was in the New Holland final. I think we didn't think he'd take down Brew Hanover necessarily, but we thought we'd give him, you know, a run for his money. At least we figured he'd help us out for the exacta. But geez, he had absolutely nowhere to go. A really frustrating trip.
It was. It just didn't work. I mean, I've been in that situation before where, you got a good horse and you're just trying to bring it in the right way, but nothing really worked for him. So this is a whole new week. We're going to put a slash through this one. You can see at this point, Tyler's still doing the side to side, looking for somewhere to get him out of this this situation. He is going to find a little bit of room, but Dougie's gone with Brew. Jabberwocky's coming hard on the outside with Trevor, and he finally splits right here and he moves forward. He's not going to get the third in there, but when he did come out of the hole, even though he'd been shut down that long, he did have a good little run in there. I'm going to put him up on top in here. I got a feeling that there's not going to be any locked-in journeys for Mr. Emmett's buddy tonight.
Yeah, I say tonight's all about revenge.
Yeah. He might need his carrots tonight.
I know. Of course, I forgot to stop at the grocery store, but that's okay. I'll make up for it next time. So Emmett's buddy, a top selection from both Randy and I. Now Garnet and the morning line have put the 8-horse Fortify in the top spot.
I could see that.
He's only making his second start, so he's got some fresh legs.
Yeah, and he's a top quality horse. You can see what he did last year. And he's beat the Open, the Preferred here before. So he definitely going to be a tough horse to beat in here. But to the same effect, though, so's Emmett's buddy. And the big thing that Emmett has over him is Emmett's had 2 qualifiers and 3 starts back. The last one being a locked-in journey. Fortify, 1 qualifier, and just the 1 start back. So I think that Emmett, and the post position as well, I think he's got a little bit of an edge on what possibly could be his biggest competition, the 8-horse there. No Control. I didn't use him, did you?
I did not use him.
He's going the
tonight.
Lasix program.
I see that.
Yeah, now that's interesting, for him, because I could see Lasix really helping this horse. But I'm going to take a wait and see. I'm going to, see what happens this week, how he adjusts to it, how he races, and then maybe he might be a horse to look at for next week.
Well, and he's also going into his old barn again, too, moving back into Tan McAuliffe's barn.
That's right, going back to see Dad.
Well, we understand, too, that Tan retired from being our paddock blacksmith.
Right.
Apparently Chad knew about the cake, but we didn't know about it. Typical Chad. Race number 2, second half of the early double is where we go next. Fillies and Mares non-winners of 14,000 in their last 5 starts with a field of 8. I like this race too because you could go so many different directions. I mean, Raptors 1 is the now horse for the Cullens, has strung along a number of really great efforts, got beat last start out by Lions Better Day, but really all of these gals are great mares in their own right. You got Chief's Dream Girl, who, I'm going to tell you something, Randy, I know you missed last Saturday's program, but she was amazing. She grew wings and flew down the stretch in that last start. This is a big jump up for her. She's got to face the tough girls tonight, but the way she raced last time was a monster effort, and it wouldn't surprise me if she got herself somewhere in the top 4.
Yeah, I mean, she's, that's her whole thing, though, with Chief, right? Yeah. She always seems like if they don't have to overdo it early, she has this fantastic kick on the end of it, and it looks like she pulled it off here. And a lot of times with her too, you go down to her bottom limb, still on Chief's Dream Girl, down to that bottom win. She won by a half a length. That's more her kind of a scenario. She just gets there. Last week, she wins by 2 1/4 pulling away.
Yeah,
that to me is an overpowering kind of win. I didn't use her in here, but I am going to use another horse much like her style, and that's going to be the 3-horse Caviar and Crackers. I'm going to throw her in as my beat the favorite because I think between Raptors 1 and Grit and Grace, that is where all your money is going to land. And I think that if Caviar and Crackers gets the right kind of trip, I think I can maybe get there at a price.
Anytime I've seen Caviar and Crackers win, it's very similar to Chief's Dream Girl,
Much,
right?
Yeah.
Comes flying right from the back of the bus. So I'll watch for that in race number 2. Let's go to race number 3, third race, non-winners of 8,000 in their last 5, where we kick off the pick 4, the first of a few pick 4s on tonight's program. Hungry Man here from the McNairs. Now, they're setting themselves up for hopefully a good night tonight. They got a lot of power in on tonight's program. Hungry Man is one of them. Doug had a great night last night, winning 4 races on the program. This horse, just the 1 win so far this season from 11 starts. But when he's down and around these non-winners of 8,000 class, it seems to really work out pretty good for him.
He becomes quite dangerous.
He's the star.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's going to be the route that I'm going to go in here as well. It's a sweep. You know, we got a sweep. The only difference is you threw the 8 in. Everybody's using the 8, but you got him in for second. Highland Beach Lover.
Yeah.
So everything else is pretty well, you know, go. Hungry Man, he's got the ability to leave. He's got the rail. Like Elisa said, his driver is very, very hot right now. I mean, he's sitting on a win.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. I mean, last year he's 7 for 37. This year 1 for 11. He's due for a win as well. So with the rail, Hot McNair on him. Greg's Barn is racing really, really good in here. I don't think it's an overall tough field, you know. Sergeant Slaughter could bring a bit of a problem. Highland Beach Lover is like dead on his game right now. Never seen Highland Beach Lover any better, you know, than he is right now. I've seen him race very high classes, but I mean, his consistency right now is spot on. So definitely a horse that's on great form right now. And I think that one of the toughest competition, the horses that Hungry Man has to face in here is coming from his own stable.
That's true.
Wheels on fire, but yet Dougie elected to go with Hungry Man. That's enough for me.
Well, don't get worried when you see that pulled up line because he just broke some equipment that night, but it did give me and Jeff both a mild heart attack when we saw him pull to the outside of the track because he's such a fan favorite here. But when he was coming back to the barn, his groom was laughing at him saying, "You broke some equipment again?"
Oh, wow.
You know, so
yeah.
he's so big, he probably breaks all
I would
sorts of
say.
things. Race number 4 on tonight's card where we kick off the pick 6. This time we're looking at fillies and mares, non-winners of 8,000 in their last 5. And this is another good group that just makes it hard, you know, to kind of, do you go to, say, Style for a Mile because she's here from the Maneri barn? You get a really strong driver-trainer combination. She's been racing down at the Meadowlands. You know, do we just put her, you know, in the top spot and look at everybody else underneath? And maybe she's a possible key for tonight's pick 6. Or do we look at a horse like, say, Better Not Mock Me from the Hot Cullen outfit?
I didn't. Better Not Mock Me. I got down in on the bottom. I think that she could race good. You know, Style for a Mile is the way that I'm going to go.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when we were watching her last year, you know, I mean, she was winning at just below the fillies and mares, and sometimes she would even win the fillies and mares. You know, when she was real good. This is fillies and mares, non-winners of 8,000. I think one of the things that I like about her, really like about her in here too, Elise, is the fact that she last race was March the 28th.
Right.
Now she's back in to go first time for Maneri April the 12th.
Right.
I think that gives her enough time that if Dave wanted to get a little bit of work done on her because she's a fresh horse coming into his barn, you know, I think that he could have probably got a little bit of work done to her and potentially got a little bit of a training into her as well. So I think that she could come into this race very good, you know, with a little bit of a stale date and with the middle of the gate to deal with. I think she's going to be extra tough in here tonight.
She's another sweep on the board tonight. There's a
there you
couple of
go.
sweeps so far, so a lot of people might be possibly using her as a key in tonight's pick 6. Let's go to race number 5, where we look at 5-year-olds and younger non-winners at $2,000 or $30,000. You've got a few in here that you know. Well, I'm just not 100% sure on. For example, Stay Longer has had a couple of qualifiers, goes out for the Maneri barn. I have to assume sometimes too, Randy, that some of these horses from the McNair barn that we haven't seen in a while, probably wintered down in Florida, maybe got some sun on their back, and you know, they've come up here, they've qualified a couple of times, and that last qualifier was a pretty good time too, 56-4. But then you look at other horses like, say, Rose Run AJ. Tough post position tonight, but a nice winner back on April the 3rd. And then there's a horse you want to talk about here, Honolulu Vacation. A lame scratch, a sick scratch, and then a qualifier, and not a bad return to the races.
Yeah, the big reason why I'm going to go with Honolulu Vacation up on top too, though, is that I think that he has raced against better horses and made a better, a good showing of himself. When I discount him, he beats me. And, you know, so this is one of the first times that I've actually used him up on top. Mike Whalen drives this guy, you know, a lot. He hasn't in his last little bit. Bobby's been driving with him. Bobby's been sticking with him. I think that Mike gets along very well. Every once in a while, you'd see Mike, you know, come down in amongst them. And he, to me, always had good wheels that way. So he has got an outside draw. There are a couple of crushers in here. Blazing Cruiser could be interesting. He's coming in off of a qualifier, the one start, but he ended up making a break. So I got him in for second. But Honolulu Vacation, let's take a look at this last replay on his because he made good grounds. And again, it's down, to me, it's down when they race him down in amongst them, when they keep him covered up. I find that he really seems to be interested and into it. You can see right now Bobby's still on the rail. He's got the big yellow shadow roll. Now he's just going to start to come down through these horses. And like I said, I just find that when they race him this way, he's the one that's always moving forward. Like Bobby's not chasing him. He's just riding along, trying to find room, steering him in between horses, you know. This horse is doing this all on his own. Now Bobby finally starts to chase him. What is he going to do? Is he going to stop? No. He keeps going forward. I think it was a good effort, and I think that even though an outside post position, I think he can come back with a big effort for McClure.
So race number 5 on tonight's card features a field of 10. We've got big fields on tonight's program, you know, especially in the last race on tonight's card. But as you can see, a few different selections here. You know, I'm using the 5, you're using the 9. John Rallis is using the 1, Blazing Cruiser. Blazing Cruiser's only making his 6th start this season. He's had a couple of wins. The wins were back early in January. He's had a qualifier on March the 31st, so they gave him a little bit of time off, and he's had a first race back on April the 5th.
Yeah, I got him in for second because I'm a big fan of the horse.
Yeah.
But to the same effect, I don't really put him as a win candidate because, like you said, you know, he is just coming back. He has had a qualifier and a start, but qualifier in 2-1, he did make a break, charted line in the start 2-4.
Yeah.
He might have a little bit of work to do in one start.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So I'm going to throw him in for second. I do think that he's a quality horse, but I'm going to try to beat him with 1.
Alrighty, so that is the 5th race on tonight's program as we flip the page and go to race number 6. Now the 6th race is where we kick off the late pick 5 for you, and this time we're looking at fillies and mares, 5-year-olds and younger, non-winners of 3 or 50, and a field of 8. You've got a horse like Cocoa Puff Power making an awful lot of changes here tonight for the 6th start this season. Still in search of that first win for Meg Crone, going from side rolls to a Swedish bridle tonight and taking that Murphy off on the left-hand side. So they are making some changes with this horse. Then you look at a horse like, say, Sunshine Magic coming in off a really nice win. The win was with Louis Waugh. Louis back doing the driving here tonight. Seems like they get along quite well.
That's the route I'm going to go. You know, he raced very well for Louis last week. You know, I think Jeff Hunt's done a great job with it.
I would agree.
You know, I mean, he's got a win down on the bottom and non-winners at 2. Then she came up to the non-winners at 3. Jeff's done a great job with her. Kept her sharp. Drury subbed to 1 time. 2 starts ago, another inside trap. Kept her sharp. She's racing good right now. Louis jumps up on her last week. Comes up with a big win, and now he's going to come back again. I think that Sunshine Magic is the route to go.
Is Swift Talker a player in this race to you at all? She's coming in off of a 3rd place finish behind Sunshine Magic. She's actually in this replay that you're going to show us.
Yeah, I got her as down on the bottom. I got her in for 4th on mine. The one that I'm kind of interested in is the 5-horse Cocoa Puff Power because she's making a lot of changes. Now, she's going to go from side rolls to a Swedish blind. And my problem with the way that we do our changes, Swedish blind is 2 ways. Either you're starting as an open and you're going to go to a blind, or you're starting as a blind and you're going to go to an open. And I wish that they would tell us what we're getting on the start. Exactly. If you change from sides to an open, that's what you get, sides to an open. If you go from sides to a blind, you get sides to a blind. With the Swedish, it's a guess. So my thing to the people out there, if you're interested in Cocoa Puff Power tonight, and if you're interested in that bridle change, when she comes out on the track, that bridle is either going to be an open bridle or it's going to be a closed bridle. And then I would go from there. And at some point in the race, it's going to change again because there's a string that goes with it. So it's either going to start with a blind, go up to an open, or it's going to start this way as an open and come down to a blind. Either way, I think it's a change that you should take a look at. She's in the middle of the gate, very hot driver on her, and she's racing very, very well right now.
Yeah, I put her up on top here tonight
Good
too.
move.
Yeah, but even without knowing that change.
Right.
So I'll be paying attention to that too because you bring up a really good point, Betty.
Yeah.
Like,
what are we getting? The open or the blind?
There's a few things that we've mentioned from time to time over the years together that we'd like to see added to the program. That's a good one. Put that on the list.
Yeah. Well, it's the same as the time you said about their birthday. What's wrong with having that on there? I think that's a great
Just give me the birth
handicapping
month,
tool.
for goodness sakes.
Yes.
Yep. Race number 7, pop-up series action for you. We have a couple of pop-up series races tonight. This one's for the boys. We're on the pace, all pacing races on tonight's program. And some of these horses we played when we had our last mandatory jackpot high five, right? Because we were talking about, say, like Gentle on My Mind, who was in that that spot, I think. Now, Gentle on My Mind last start out made a break back on April the 5th. You look at a horse like Windblown for the Beaten Barn with James driving. What I liked, they sent him right to the front and he just kept on going last start on a track that wasn't exactly perfect.
Right.
And then, he wins for fun. There's no reason in my mind why he can't come back and do the same thing.
100%. And plus, he's getting second start Lasix.
Yeah,
that was
go.
first
There's
start
your move.
Lasix. You know what I mean? And if he can do that first start Lasix, with no help, just chop it all out, then you would have to think he would improve. And he's coming right back more or less to the same kind of a class that he beat last time. Not a tough bunch. Middle of the gate, James back in the bike. I see another sweep.
I do too, and you know what else? I think it's the same exactor as last week, Windblown Neptune.
Could be,
You know,
I'm going to
looks
go
kinda the same to me.
Windblown, batter up Hanover.
All right, that sounds good. Batter Up Hanover last start out was 20-1, but the starts before, when he was also in the pop-up, before the final, he was winning and was bet down as the favorite. But in
Yeah.
the final, he just didn't really get a lot of support. Now, Highland Beach Lover was on his game
Yeah.
that night, and Elliot Moose, you're going to see him tonight in the last race on the card.
Yeah, I think he just paid for it a little bit too much out of the 9-hole in that last
yeah.
start. I think he's a one-move kind of a horse, but it's a good move. It's a fast, good move that can win races. Now that he moves back to the rail after, getting a lot of work put into him last week, I think he could come out of this a lot better tonight.
Let's go to the 8th race where we kick off another pick 4. This will be the last pick 4. Non-winners of 14,750 in the last 5 starts. And this is our only scratch. Oh, sorry, there's 2 scratches on tonight's program. Trosa being scratched out of this race, and we have a scratch in the last race on the card too. So it gets us down to a field of 7. I always enjoy watching Right Me a Rose. And, I last start in the preferred was obviously a tough spot to make the comeback because, we're beaten 22 lengths and he made a break, which is something we don't see very often from him. But this is a different classification tonight. He's caught a lot of backlash. Last year he made almost $200,000. But then he has to go against Codename Cigar Box, who, was really good. Now, I know he has to jump up tonight, but he's coming out of the Cullen outfit, and I just can't discount this barn right now. Like every time, I think we were saying this last Saturday night when Jeff and I were working together, on every card, the Cullens seemed to get at least one winner. Last Saturday night, they had a whole handful of them. And I don't know. I mean, you got one moving up and one coming down, and they seem to be the 2 horses to talk about here.
It does, it really, Codename Cigar Box got him in for 3rd. I got Cold Creek Queso in for 4th, the breather horse there. He came first over in the final of the New Holland, and that just wasn't going to be his kind of trip. He's just kind of starting back, racing good again. So hopefully he gets a little bit of an easier trip in here tonight. I'm going to go Write Me a Rose, but hear me out on this there. I'm going on Write Me a Rose because of what I've seen in the past, not the last week. I'm going to throw that one out, and that was a preferred anyway, so he's coming down from that class anyhow. Dougie gets along really, really good with him, but I'm going more on what he's done in the past. So in a way, maybe I'm rolling the dice a little bit here. The one that scares me the most, and like I said, I do like Codename, and the one that scares me the most is I think that this is a real good spot for Jack Panic. I think that JD is sitting in a real good spot. This is a big drop down from where he was racing in his last couple of starts, and it wasn't that long ago that Jack Panic was racing in the preferred every week and taking support, because what he has is the unique ability to get himself out of there real good, get into a good spot, and still have some go on the end of it. So I think he's the dangerous horse. I am going to go Write Me a Rose simply on his past. But I think Jack Panic is going to be tough in here.
Well, he's coming out of the New Holland, and the guy who was the star in the New Holland is actually in the next race on the program, and that's Brew Hanover. Now, Brew Hanover in the 9th race, which is the feature for the night tonight, the preferred, we've been watching him every single start. He drifts out coming down the stretch, and we weren't sure if that would be a problem maybe in that final or what we'd see from him that night. Now, he did eventually drift out again, maybe not as bad as he did the very first time that we saw him, and that could be a problem down the line, right? Because it leaves the inside wide open for everybody else, especially if you got a horse coming with a late kick. The play last week for me was Tarasi. Tarasi, I thought, if we were going to get him at a price, we were going to get him back last week. Now, he ended up going off as the favorite. And I was saying on the show, it was a good thing that he has a long neck, because he got up to win by just the slimmest of margins. Now, normally Tarasi is the star of the preferred. but he has to go against Brew Hanover. And I wasn't sure if Brew Hanover was going to stick it out here in Ontario or was going to head back down to the United States. But what's interesting is that, you know, obviously Doug had to make a choice.
Yeah.
And he opts to go to Rossi instead of Brew Hanover. And like you said, Travis Cullen picks up an extremely live drive from
Very live drive. And it's nice to see Travis getting that kind of support because he deserves it. He's off to a fantastic year. I mean, look at what he's doing this year. He's almost won 20% of his starts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's won over, I think, 20%. I think 450 puts him at 20%.
Yeah, but you were saying too the other night, you're like, well, he was probably at Flamborough driving all, and then he comes down here and he finishes driving this card.
Unreal.
Like, the work ethic is phenomenal, and that's why, you know, people who work hard deserve opportunities like this. This is a great opportunity, like we said.
It is, and he's running with it. That's the beauty of it. He's running with it with the year that he's having, so keep it going, Travis. I got Brew in for second. I really do think that there's more than a good chance that he can win this race. But again, hear me out on this, okay? As to what my co-host said, he does have a tendency to run out a little bit down the lane. Maybe not quite as much last week, but still enough that a horse can get up the inside of him. That's what I'm playing on. Let's roll this replay of the 3-horse in here, Marigot Magic. He's going to be my top play in here. Now, this is 2 weeks in a row, basically, in my opinion, that he's kind of, you know, gotten really, really easy kind of trips. But this one, to me, and he's more or less in the same group as what he's in. Tarasi wins this race, odds on capitalism. I have him in for third. He's back in here again. The only one that he hasn't been facing is Brew Hanover. Look at this point. James has nowhere to go. Look at the shoulders on James. I mean, he is so far back. He's all over Louis. You know, move, Louis. But he's not moving. At no point does he get out. I think that if Brew Hanover, if James can get this guy in the deuce and Brew Hanover is a chop and he starts to run out, there could be a chance there that, you know, Marigot Magic might jump up with a big win. So that's the route I'm going to take.
The other thing, too, is that Dougie knows what the kryptonite is for Brew.
Right, exactly.
That could be very
That could be a problem, too.
And then, you know who raced extremely well last week? Jabber.
Huge. And he was just because, you know, he kind of got into a position where there was Brew Hanover gone, and then he had to come around the rest of them, but he was much the best of the rest of them.
My thing is I thought about putting Tarasi up on top tonight, and then my thing is I got to ask him to drop a couple of seconds. Because, I mean, really, Brew Hanover, he can go in 50 and not blow a candle out.
Yeah.
Right? So, does he have an advantage right now? Probably. Are you going to get a price? No.
You know, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I hope we have time for this one there because it's kind of a good one and it kind of goes with this. So one time I was driving a horse years ago and it was when I was first starting to kind of do some good. And the horse was a lot like Brew Hanover. He'd go to the front, he'd chop big miles, but he'd run out down the lane. But it was never a problem because I'd always win by 2 or 3. I just let him drift. I wasn't bothering anybody, just let him drift across. I forget who it was. I think it was either Bill Gale or Doug Brown. Either way, they were like tough to drive against because they were so smart out there. And they watched me pull this stunt off about 3 or 4 weeks in a row. And then all of a sudden, halfway around the last turn, one of them sprung on me, got right up alongside of me. And at the head of the lane, I wasn't able to let him drift. And they had me beat. Because all I could do is he wanting to drift and he's running out, you know, and I can't let him run out, so there's no momentum, and they beat me. And it was all because they were smart enough to realize what he was doing, and that's what cost me that win. Now, the next time, I didn't let them get to me. I had 2 lengths on them, you know what I mean? They weren't going to get up alongside of me the next week, and I got the job done. But I'm saying, if somebody gets up alongside of this horse tonight and don't let him run out, his momentum is not going to be the same.
Yeah, and it's not like it's a secret.
No.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows, you know.
We have a late scratch to announce. Take your program back in time, Randy, to race number 5. We're scratching the 7th, Set the World on Fire. Yep, that's a transportation scratch from the 5th race on the card. And that horse actually would have been what I would have considered a bit of a player in there. So scratch from that race. Let's go to the 10th to kick off the late double. 10th race is another pop-up series event. And, you know, every time I play Stone Carver when he's in, I've just learned I'm going to play him all the time because the days I don't use him, he pops up. And the trips that are the best for him is when they just send. So
Race him hard.
Exactly. And tonight, they tried to, they almost got it last week. He got beat by Respect Our Flag. To me, he's the horse to beat in this race, so I'm going to use him up on top. And then Mr. Ibiza, it's Barrington, it's Trevor Henry. They're always a pretty solid driver-trainer combination as well.
Yeah, I think that it's fairly logical, right? You and I are going to go Stone Carver, more or less the same reason. He's got an inside post, he's got James, and I think you and I are both looking at it the same. Just roll him.
Send him.
Roll him.
That's what he likes.
And make him tired.
Yep.
And then Garnet Barnsdale, he's going to go with Mr. Ibiza. I got him in for second. I agree with that pick. I think this is a nice drop down in competition for Ibiza. And, you can never go wrong with Trevor and Shane Barrington.
No.
They always give you really, really kind of a good go. Who was the other Garnet pick in that last sequence there, Luke? Or somebody else was using, Garnet was using the 4 on top. It was Rollis? Right, okay, so Rollis is going to go 5, Larceny. Now, I think that this is a good move on his part. If you go down 2 down, I used him that day up on top because I love the way that he raced on March the 17th. So on the 22nd, I used him that day, but unfortunately, it just didn't work. Billy had to come out of there hard with him from the 6th hole and then make another move with him again because the horse that he was following was just going nowhere. He had to get out and get going. So 2 or 3 moves. Now, last week, Billy races him from off the pace, much like he did on March the 17th when I really liked him. And I think he's kind of dangerous this way. So again, I think both of them are good, but Stone Carver, as long as they race him hard, I think that we're a winner.
Yeah, because he's pretty hard to beat when you put him up on the engine.
Yeah, and James gets a lot of respect when he gets to the front,
He does. Race number 11. This is the one that everybody's talking about tonight where we play the jackpot high five with the mandatory payout. Now, the carryover is over $214,000. We do have a scratch. We're taking out the 11. That's Woodmere Roll It Pop. So that gets us down to a field of 11. Now, that horse, the 11, was listed at 10-1 morning line. You look at this group, and one of my favorite Jeff Bratt sayings is a Pac-Man, right? And a Pac-Man is a horse who just keeps eating your money and doesn't give it back to you. And on numerous occasions, Colby Two-Step has been that guy. Right?
I've been the victim.
Yeah, and me too. And last start out, he might have an excuse with the broken equipment, but he was bet down to chalk again. He goes from aluminum to steel up front this evening. For me, I think this is a really tough one to get tonight. I don't think it's really cut and dry. Like, they've given us, obviously, a really tough race for a mandatory payout. And I just don't feel like you can put the chalk up on top. I think you got to look.
I think you can put him on top.
You can put him there, but back yourself
That's
up.
right, 100%.
With some horses at big odds.
Yeah, 100%. Because even though he's probably going to be the chalk, and I think we're both talking about the same horse here, the one horse, even though he's going to be the chalk, that doesn't mean that he is not a horse that could easily be beaten as the chalk. He's good right now. He's going to be good in here. He's coming out of a good barn. Jody's going to push hard, obviously, through this, but to the same effect, he could be beaten. Let's quickly talk about Colby Two-Step. Now, he's getting a change thrown in on him tonight. Maneri's going to take the aluminums off in front, and they're going to go to a set of steel shoes on him. Now, normally, you would not do that with a horse that you were happy with. Now, this horse has, last week, broken equipment, so we don't really know what happened there, but he was only beaten a length and 3/4. The week before, he wins. But both of those times that he raced so good in his last 2, he really didn't do much in the last quarter. And all of a sudden, Maneri takes the fast shoes off and goes to a set of shoes that are maybe not quite as quick, but a little bit more forgiving on his front ankles or his knees. I'm thinking that maybe Colby Two-Step is just starting to show a little bit of stress on those joints up front. So that's why Dave is taking the fast shoe and going to a little bit of a slower shoe. Now, it might take a bit of speed away from him, but if he's feeling better, if the shoe isn't as hard on his knees and his ankles, then he could potentially race better too. So this is going to be a bit of a question on him on these two, the 1 and the 2. How's this one, Elisa? Now, so my top pick is going to be Rockabilly, the 4-horse, and my bottom pick is going to be the 3-horse, Mama Sunburn. And I'm just as scared of one as I am the other. This is what kind of a race this is. So we got 2 replays to show you. I want to show you them both because I think both horses are live that didn't get a chance, but I like when they race them this way. This is going to be the horse that I put up on top. Now, the Dougie McNair one, I love when McNair races him this way. To me, he is not the same kind of horse when they overdo it with him. But when they come down through here, he can beat just about anybody. Look at Dougie. He still is not asked this horse to do anything. He's just trying to find open room. Finally finds open room. He's come from dead last to get to this point. So, you know, maybe he's showing a little bit of tiredness. Maybe he's seen the open air just a little bit too close or too far from the wire. Maybe if it was a little closer, he comes through there. He's going to be my top pick in this race. But Mama Sunburn, let's take a look at this one. A lot of people are going to be using this one. Garnett's got it up in for second. The only reason I put him down a little bit, JD gets along really, really good with this horse, but he is coming back off of a qualifier and 1 line, so I don't know how much Diz can get done with him. But this, again, Jody driving this horse, to me, a very locked-in trip. You can see Jody with the yellow back pad. He is coming up onto Dougie's back there right now. Still hasn't done, now the room appears, and he starts to come through with it. He doesn't come through with crazy authority. The authority's on the outside, you can see, but he does come through it good, and that's with 1 start under his belt, 1 qualifier. He's got to be better in here tonight. Both of these horses, to me, have to be more or less raced this way, and that's the route that I'm going to go because, for the simple fact, I'm just not sold on Stormalong overpowering this field. Although we could do it, I'm not overpowered on it.
I'm not sold on
it, yes.
Yeah, that's the way I feel. And you know, like even looking at the 12 horse, who a few of us are going to use here tonight, I think Ed, this is his type of drive. Like Elliott Moose, you know, this kind of horse that wants to be at the back of the bus and then come with a big late kick. I don't necessarily think they're, you know, in the win candidate, but they're there. They're there at the end. And the more I look at it, the more I look at the other Cullen horse, and that's Pipe Wrench Charlie. I don't want to get caught looking. I like this horse tonight, and I'm just going to take a flyer and put him up on top. But what do you have for your ticket?
Okay, so I'm going to take a chance there and hope that Dougie has not overdone it last night, and he's still got a couple of wins in him, and I'm going to put Rockabilly Rebel up on top. He won 3 down, and it was the same kind of a trip. And if you look at all of his other lines, his last 4, he's only getting beat less than 2.5 lengths or 1.5 lengths every single time. He's always got good quarters. He needs some luck. That's what I'm looking for. And then I just spread down from there. I like Stormalong, you know, and Colby Two-Step and Mama Sunburn and Pipe Wrench Charlie. You know, I'm going to fill in there, and then for 4th and 5th, I'm just going to try to fill up as much as I can. I like Elliott Moose in there. I know that it's a bit of a step up. I know it's not a great post position for him, but boy, talk about a horse that is on phenomenal form right now.
Well, I'm
Look
not
at this.
spending a lot of money tonight,
I see that.
Andy, because you know what? To me, I think this is hard to get, so I'm just going to take a flyer on a long shot using the 8-horse Pipe Wrench Charlie up on top because I said there's something about him that's bugging me. So I want to use him. So I'm going to use him with the 1 because the 1 is the one that kind of makes logical sense, and we know Jody will likely send from the inside. But then I'm going to just kind of narrow it down. Mama Sunburn, I know, is a horse that can be pretty hard on himself.
Right.
You know, over the years, he's kind of hard on his knees, I think, from time to time, too. Rockabilly Rebel, you talked about him, and Elliott Moose. I do think Elliott Moose is going to get himself into the mix late, and then I'm just going to hit the all button. So if you want to play along with this one, it's only $16 and change. It's not an expensive ticket. John Rallis keying the 3 up
Beautiful.
on top, Mama Sunburn.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Hey?
And, you know, and his is basically the same as yours. It's a
Yeah.
$48 ticket. He's going, you know, with a key up on top and then using the 1 and the 2. See, I didn't use the 2 at all. That's where I just can't do it tonight, especially if we want to try and get it at a big price. So John Rallis having a $48 ticket with the 3 up in the top spot, and Garnet Barnsdale has passed along a jackpot high 5 as well. He's going to key the 1 and then use the 2, 3, 4 and then add the 8 and the 12
A lot of us
as
are
well.
using the same horses.
It's just different variations
Yeah.
of
Now,
how we're using it.
where did Rollis go in the 5th? Did he all the same as you and Garnet?
Sorry, I don't think so.
No?
He just
Okay.
spread a little kind of like
Okay.
you.
Okay, cool.
Whereas Garnet is hitting the all button, but he's going a little deeper, so his is $76.
Right.
And mine's cheap because I'm only playing a couple of horses just for. I'm going to have a little fun with my ticket and see if I can get it home. But I don't really have a ton of confidence in this one tonight. This is the night where I think if you have friends that play the races, or you're here watching and you're maybe enjoying a lovely dinner up in the dining room, and there's 8 of you, everybody just tosses in a couple of bucks and you put together a ticket and see if you get lucky.
Go by names, go by house numbers, phone numbers.
Who's winking at ya?
I've seen it work.
Oh, I know.
I've seen it work a million times before, So anyway, have fun with it. We're really looking forward to it. I think there's a whole plethora of different ways that you can go in the final.
A plethora.
There you
the way
go.
Will says. Okay, now we got plays of the night too. We still have plenty. What do you got for your plays of the night, buddy?
Well, I'm going to start right off in race number 1 to our buddy, Emmett's buddy. And hoping that Emmett's buddy, Mike, is going to have him ready to go tonight. He's going to be my Waples watch in race number 2. Going to go right to race number 1. Race number 2 is going to be Caviar and Crackers for Hensley's. Beat the fave in that one. And then I'm going to go all in on Sunshine Magic for Jeff Hunt and Louis Waugh. Worth a look is going to be Marigo Magic in that tough
it's a
preferred.
tough one. Well, I'm doing the same thing. I got Emmett for revenge tonight. Ready off the rest. This is one that I made up the other day, and I kind of have a little fun with it. So that's Stay Longer, who's competing in the 5th race. And when I say ready off the rest, I say exactly that. It's a horse making the first start of the season. My repeats, Windblown, we talked about that one. And my upset is Pipe Wrench Charlie in the last race on
Good
the card
one.
tonight. Yeah, why not take a flyer on a long shot?
What have the
bomb.
boys got?
They got Emmett. John's got Emmett, of course, and you're not going to get 4-1 at all. He's 6-5 right now. Grit and Grace in race number 2 for Garnet. I don't think you'll get much of a price on that mare.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
I don't know.
She'll be the second choice at least.
I think you're right. I think she would be the second choice, but you know what scares me is the fact that I did put her in for second. Is she ever good right now?
She's good right now.
Cool.
Yeah, that's for sure. Oh, codename Cigar Box in race number 8 is a top
Ghislaine.
selection
Call
for
to repeat.
Ghislaine. Yeah, and that's that race that we talked about. It's back and forth between codename Cigar Box or Write Me a Rose, who has some pretty serious back class. It's a busy Saturday night. Plenty of great racing action for you on this evening's program, including a mandatory payout for the Jackpot High Five. 11 races in total. And as I like to say, live from Mohawk, it's Saturday night.
It's Saturday night, and I'm going to have a huckleberry.